guys, what's up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rides. I'm back here at Hyundai Newport Richey, walking around, and I knew as soon as I saw this car, this would be one that many of you have been waiting for. This is a 2019 Hyundai Elantra GT. So let's talk a little bit about Hyundai. Hyundai's been around since 1987. First car they made was a Hyundai Excel. I'll be honest, it really wasn't the best of cars, but what was interesting is that you could get a sedan or a hatchback. And it kind of makes sense because now we're featuring this Elantra GT, which the Elantra, guess what? You could get in a sedan or a hatchback. But trust me, this car is way further than the Excel could have ever dreamed of. Underneath the hood of this one is a naturally aspirated engine, inline four, putting out 161 horsepower, but guess what? If you option this correctly, you could actually get a turbocharged engine putting out 201 horsepower. Let's take a look at the front of the Hyundai Elantra GT. This car is directly aligned to be in style and whatnot as the Volkswagen Golf. I like this version though because it really puts a nice 21st century twist on things. I like the front fascia. I think that this car, the front looks better than the sedan. I really think that it was smart to go with vents that are functional. So Tom will show you that air passes through, just like many of other Hyundai vehicles. Vents pass through, it's an aerodynamic piece. You have your LED lighting down here, really nice headlights, and I'm really loving the grille area. This car over in Europe is called the i30. And I think that it really has a nice European look to it, even though this is a South Korean car company. But I like the style of the grille, not too much glitz, not too much glam, just the right touch. You have a separation of a lower lip spoiler here. Just sticks out enough to where you don't have to worry about when you're pulling up the parking blocks, scraping it and hitting it. And as you go across the front, everything just looks very cohesive, and it's got a very angry look to it. And I mean that in a good way. I really think, like I said, that this car is targeted right at the Volkswagen Golf. And what's interesting, like I said, you go turbocharged in this, that's gonna be direct competition for that GTI, probably one of the most famous of all hot hatches. As we come around the corner, I like the way they brought some silver into the headlight housing. To be honest with you though, I like to see this black on the headlights. I think that the black here would really even make it look more sporty. Speaking of sport, I like the style of the wheel. It's brushed aluminum, darker gray, like a gunmetal color, 17-inch wheel. It really looks well, and it's a great size. You don't have to go 19-inch to have a good looking wheel anymore. But there are options depending on which way you want to go. Remember, new for 2019 is you could get this in an N-line version that's going to have different wheels, different front fascia, different suspension, and of course that turbocharged engine. Let's continue down the side of this hatch. Love the overall lines. I like the way they brought some silver trim into it. They didn't cheap out and make these all black. They took that beautiful blue onto the side mirrors. You can see that there isn't any turn signal. I wish they had the very thin LED turn signals that they have on some other models. As we work our way towards the back, another thing that I think really makes this car look really nice is this body line that starts from the front and comes out all the way to the rear, and then a rear quarter window which makes it look very slim and trim. And speaking of trim, love the extra hood, roof spoiler. Comes out just enough, and I think that finishing it in gloss black is spot on. And another thing, just like the front, I love the rear end of these Elantra GTs. You have really great lighting, love the way that it's shaped. These are going to be reflectors. These don't light up or anything. So this is going to be a zonk. I wish that they wouldn't run stuff like that, or at least make it smaller and out of the way. But as you come to the rear, I really love the overall look of the tailgate area. There's our Elantra GT badge, and you can see just a very simple rear fascia. Now when you go with that turbocharged engine, you'll actually have the dual exhausts that you don't have on this one, which actually makes it, just like I said, a perfect competitor to that Volkswagen Golf GTI. But if you're ready, let's go ahead and pop the hood on this Elantra GT. All right guys, here we are underneath the hood of the Hyundai Elantra GT. This one, like I said, you have two engine options. This is going to be that 2-liter Inline 4, naturally aspirated engine. It's putting out 161 horsepower, 150 foot-pounds of torque. The wonderful thing I love about Hyundai, no CVTs. They don't have one CVT transmission in their whole lineup. This has a 6-speed automatic gearbox. If you're wondering, well, what kind of MPGs am I going to get in this car? Around town, it sips gas very easily, so you're going to get 25 miles to the gallon. And like I said, if this is something that you want a little bit more performance, then you can go with the turbocharged engine that puts out 201 horsepower. Let's go ahead though and crank up this engine and see what it sounds like. Alright guys, time to check out the interior of this Hyundai Elantra GT. Here's where it's going to get a little bumpy, especially compared to the Volkswagen Golf, is the overall types of materials. Not the fit and finish, but the overall types of materials. Let's go ahead and look at the door panel. Lots of black there. I really wish that Hyundai would do something with their door panels and get some different color. The great news is though, is that that top portion of the door panel is nice and soft to the touch. The armrest is not so much. Hyundai has some of the hardest armrests in certain cars. Some cars they knock out of the park. This one, the armrests are as hard as a rock. As you transition into the dash, same story, lots of black, but they do bring some silver trim around the AC vents and the AC controls. And it's a soft material. This is a little bit harder, and then obviously this is going to be the hardest, but this is probably where you're going to touch a little bit more. Nice size infotainment screen. I really like the ease of use and how it has that same feature like on your cell phone where you're able to swap, obviously Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and all those things. And then you could use your buttons to get into your information as well. So if you wanted to get into apps or whatnot. Here's where I think they should have brought some more of that silver trim around the AC vents. The actual controls though feel really good and of quality. If you're ever wondering how do I lock or unlock the doors, they do it sort of BMW style where they have that button position right here in the center. Simple to understand AC controls. They're not dual climate. And then you have a very large cubby. One of the things Hyundai does so well is they give you a very large cubby, two 12 volts, USB. I just wish there was a cover. Now, because this isn't a fully trimmed out one, you're not going to get a bunch of features. There's a lot of fake buttons here, but you do have the gloss black, no leather on the actual shifter, the top portion itself. You have the gloss black. You do get a faux leather boot, no contrast stitching, and then the good old-fashioned e-brake. My only complaint, where I'm going to zonk it, is I wish they would just take some of this material and put it around the e-brake just to give it a little bit higher scale feel to it. Armrests, just like the doors, they're as hard as a rock. This one looks a little bit better because it's got the contrast stitching. You open it up and it's got some usable space, but no more connectivity. So all your connectivity is going to happen right there. And then finally, the seats. This one has cloth. You can get leather. I do like the style though. The fabric, the quality feels really good. And it's got a look to it which makes it kind of pop a little bit. Overall though, the seats are comfortable. The back has a really good not too firm, but not too soft, kind of right in the sweet spot. And I like the headliner. I think it was smart to go with a light color headliner to kind of make it a little bit more open and airy. Why don't you come on over here and I'll show you the business end behind the wheel of the Elantra GT. All right, guys, business end behind the wheel of this Elantra GT. Like I was saying, the seats are great, headroom's great. Steering wheel, it's a great size. Obviously, it's tilting and telescoping. It's just, it's rubber. It's that rubber material. But remember, this does have an MSRP very low at $21,000. I like the silver on the steering wheel, a little bit of gloss black. And I'm really digging the button placement that they have. It makes it very easy to toggle through different things. And if you go to the dash there, you can see very smart layout, analog tach, analog speedometer. You have that button here where I could toggle through different features on that digital screen in the center. So that's nice to see. And it's just really easy to understand. Nothing super complicated here, and it doesn't need to be complicated. That's the wonderful thing about this. You actually have a great dead pedal. Even though this is an automatic, you have a great dead pedal. No paddles, so if you want to do any shifting, you're going to have to do it in the sport mode setting on the shifter here. To go up the gears, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you go up on the shifter, down the gears, you go the opposite direction. I would like to see it flip-flopped, where actually you pull back to go up, but that's just me. A lot of that has to do from my racing days of a sequential transmission. But let's go ahead and check out the back seat of this Elantra GT. All right, guys, back seat time of the Elantra GT. It's actually quite surprising. I did not move the seat, so that's why, you know, being 6 feet tall, the seat is coming back a little further than maybe normal. But if you maybe are nice to your driver, maybe they'll move the seat up. The seats are comfortable, no connectivity what to speak of. But remember, MSRP at $21,000. It's got the harder plastic on the back and these weird cargo nets. Normally I would zonk those, but at this price point, I think it's to be expected. And I know a lot of you that have kids rather have them kick this than the cloth on the back of the seat. Armrests, good size, horizontal cup holders, so that's nice to see, give you maximum space. Probably what the most important thing you want to know is, what the heck can you put in this hatchback? Let's go check it out. All right, guys, probably one of the biggest reasons why you would buy a hatchback is what can you put underneath the hatch. So to open it up, it's real simple. The hatch is very light, pops right open. You have a lot of room, great opening to get wider items in. Those seats are gonna do a 60-40 split, which is gonna allow you to really just put longer items in here. Let me show you one thing. I'm gonna point something out. I'm gonna have Tom come around and zoom in on this. If you notice this little extra piece, this ledge here, you could actually adjust the height of the back of the car, which is really nice, depending if you have something ultra deep that you need to put in there. But if you're ready, talking about this is great. Let's go ahead and take this GT for a spin. Guys, we're in the 2019 Hyundai Elantra GT, and right away, even with that naturally aspirated engine, 161 horsepower, it has a nice little getaway to it. Let me go ahead and get on the loud pedal. Really not too shabby, to be honest with you. When it comes to this type of car, you have to, you know, look at the car for what it is. This is their entry level into the hatchback, which is the GT. It's got 161 horsepower from that inline 4 engine. And to be honest with you, it has some get up and go to it. Car is very smooth. Cabin is on the quiet side. Now the engine is a little buzzy, but that's to be expected in an engine only putting out 161 horsepower. You have that 6-speed automatic transmission, really shifts well. The way the car handles, very, very smooth. Very smooth. And I love the visibility in this thing. I think this car actually has better visibility than your regular Elantra sedan, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people aren't in love with the iPad style infotainment screens, but you know what? It's a good size, and because it's up nice and straight like that, it's easy to get to, easy to understand. So that's really nice with the controls like that. Steering wheel, like I said before, great shape, great size. I just wish they would have used some faux leather instead of this rubber material. It gives the car a rental car feel to it, which, you know, MSRP $21,000. I think maybe you could put a little bit of faux leather on the steering wheel. They're definitely not giving you anything for the armrest, so at least they can make it up there. AC vents are in a great place. They blow really nice and cold. So I'm very happy about that. And that little digital display in the center gives you some good information about MPGs, the temperature outside. We're in drive. If you shift into sport mode, which is just sliding it over, you actually tells you what gear you're in. So obviously we're in first because we're sitting at a light. You put it back, it's in D. You do have 2 different drive modes, sport and non-sport. It doesn't say normal or anything like that. It just says, okay, drive mode, sport. Hit it again, sport's gone. So you have sport missing and sport added. Those are the 2 options for the drive mode. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it in sport and see if I could feel a difference in the actual acceleration of the car once this light turns green, which, there you go, ask and you shall receive. So here we go. Definitely, you could feel that the throttle response is much quicker in sport mode than in your standard mode. And I've also noticed it holds the car at a higher gear. So it almost feels like I'm in 5th gear rather than 6th gear. That's what I meant by that, if I had confused you. But it feels like, okay, if once I start getting on it, it kind of already is at a higher gear to where it's not dropping down, but I am accelerating. Brakes feel good. Overall steering feel very light. You know, this car is not heavy. It's right around 3,000 pounds, so that makes it a lightweight by today's standards, that's for sure. But just like the driving of it, I mean, it actually drives very nicely considering that it is a $21,000 car. All right, guys, we're rolling out here. Let me just go ahead and slow down a little bit, and then I'm gonna get on the gas. I'm telling you, the transmission is actually pretty smart. It drops down to the right gear and you're off and running, which depending on some cars, you know, you just never know exactly what type of acceleration you're gonna get based off of where the transmission is putting you. But it puts you in the right gear, and I really like that. I'm gonna try to go ahead and shift using the actual shifter. So I'm in 4th, drop it down to 3rd, drop it down to 2nd. Very smooth. It's very smooth. It's a little sluggish though. To be honest with you, I think probably 99.9999999% of the people are just gonna leave it in drive, putting it in that mode where you could shift through the gears. The problem is, it's like I went to go shift, telling it to go into the next gear, and it was not happening. It actually happened after I put it back into. So very, very slow shifting. So I don't see any point in that. But overall, I actually like driving the car. It's a very smooth car, and it has a lot of usable space inside, even with Big Guns McGee in here. So we're gonna wrap this one up and get back to Hyundai Newport Richey, because guess what? We have more cars to review. So I'll see you in a second. All right, guys, been a real wonderful day here at Hyundai Newport Richey. Definitely got to give a huge thank you and a special shout out to Bill Parenti and everybody here at the dealership. If these are the top types of hatchbacks you like to see on Rady's Rides, leave a comment in that comment section. If you are just new and you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile coming back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you. Thank you for being part of the Rady's Rides family. Check out all my different forms of social media. You know what they're called, and it's all Rady's Rides original content all the time. If you want to get yourself some merch, click the link in the description. Takes you right to Spreadshirt. Of course, we got to give a huge thank you to the man holding the camera. This job would be much harder for me if it wasn't for Tom, and I know many of you say your prayers every night for Tom Moschner, Big Guns McGee. May his muscles get larger and larger every day. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.